Hey, dear listener, this is part 2 of our 2-part series on mental health. If you haven't already, go back and listen to part 1 first. Also, a disclaimer. We are not mental health professionals, so please take our experiences and opinions for what they are. Our experiences and opinions. And please talk to your doctor if you're needing help, medication, resources, etc. She's going to be your best reference here. Today, we will be talking about sexual abuse and mental health issues. So, if that feels like it's too much or you feel a little too tender, that's okay. Just join us on our next episode and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
We're two childhood best friends talking about creative mindset.
I'm Emily Hatch.
And I'm Carrie Schaefer, and this is Honestly, Dear Listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo! Anxiety and anxious thinking were such a well-worn path. And that's familiar to me. So if I worry about something, oh yeah, there's a much lower likelihood that it's actually going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to keep worrying about it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
And expect the unexpected. Do you know how much unexpected you can't? It's like infinity unexpected.
Yes.
I do not want to be surprised.
Yes.
So I'm going to continue
Absolutely.
to think of nightmare scenarios so that when they happen, I wasn't surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew it and I was ready.
Absolutely.
Instead, you just like live your life in a nightmare scenario
Mm-hmm.
and your nervous system doesn't understand the difference between it happening and you imagining it happening. So you're just a fucking mess.
Absolutely. And you know, it's interesting you bring up the nervous system. I had a traumatic thing happen, right,
Mm-hmm.
that made me feel unsafe. But then I interpreted so many other things, like waiting for my parents to come get me when the anxiety wall fell on me. I was in no danger. At no point was I in danger. That's logical, right? That's your brain, your prefrontal cortex talking.
Mm-hmm.
Your nervous system, however, doesn't know the difference between an actual threat and a perceived threat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going haywire in your body. You are not in rest and digest. You are constantly in fight,
Fight or flight.
flight,
Yep.
flee, or fawn.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've told my therapist was like, when I went through these anxious episodes, I was never actually in danger. And she was like, that's minimization. You're minimizing because your brain is thinking you are never in danger, but your body doesn't know the difference. And
Mm-hmm.
that is valid. That's leading to anxiety feelings, whether or not you were actually safe or unsafe. Your body perceived that it was unsafe, and that's still valid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much shame we want to heap on ourselves. Like I've had a lot more anxiety this since moving to New York. It's been
Mm-hmm.
like super on turbo. It's been
Mm-hmm.
really bad here and there. And it's like I want to be like, bitch, you're fine. Look around.
Right.
You're fine. Like nothing is wrong. And then it's shame in there
Mm-hmm.
that, but it's like, well, my body doesn't know that. I was in the coffee shop a couple weeks ago writing some stuff and it was like making a plan for some stuff I'm nervous about. I started like feeling like I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I got
Mm-hmm.
like nothing was wrong. I'm safe and fine. And my business coach, I was like, I didn't finish that assignment because I started flipping out. It didn't feel like there was a problem. And she's like, well, what do you think that anxiety attack was trying to tell you?
Mm.
And I was like, no one's ever asked me that before. Instead
Mm.
of me like making an enemy of my body being like, bitch, there's nothing wrong.
Right.
Uh, she reframed like, well, what's your body telling you? And I'm like, oh, we don't listen to her. She's nuts. I was like, oh, and it took me a while. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And she's
Mm.
like, okay. And I'm like, this isn't, I'm really afraid that I'm going to do well with this and it's going to make my life something I don't want it to be. I'm overwhelmed at that thought.
You're afraid of success?
in this way, because if I'm
Mhm.
successful in this way, that's not taking care of what I actually give a shit about.
I
And she's
see.
like, "Oh, well, there you go. Your nervous
Mhm.
system went like, no, 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 we do not want this. We don't want this. We don't want this." And I was just like, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like sometimes she's a friend, but the reframe was really helpful because
Yeah.
I wasn't listening, not listening to my body. My body is trying to tell me, hey, we're perceiving danger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're dumb.
Mhm. Yep.
Like,
You know,
okay.
it's fascinating too because I keep hearing like, "Oh, listen to the wisdom of your body. Listen to the wisdom of your body." And I'm like, "Bullshit." Like I was taught my body is fleshly,
Mm-hmm,
and as a fleshly thing, it wants debauchery and it wants to be a slut and it wants to, like all this stuff where it's like, it's something that can't be trusted because it's always
mm-hmm,
going to want fleshly desires. And those things are counter to what Jesus wants
mm-hmm.
for me.
Whatever it is, it's wrong.
Yeah. So I was
Yep.
taught you don't listen to your body because it's always going to lead you astray. So I have a brain body disconnection where my
Mm-hmm,
brain knows what's up logically, but my body hasn't gotten the message on things, especially the message that, oh, by the way, you're safe. And so
mm-hmm,
just throwing logic at it all the time is really, really, it starts to hurt after a while because it's like the brain being like, why aren't you as smart as us? Why
mm-hmm,
can't you just understand and get this through? I mean, it becomes a shame club where you're just beating
mm-hmm,
yourself over the head with it instead of being like, whoa, you have a wisdom that I don't fully understand on a logical level, but I want to start listening to what you're trying to tell me because I think you're trying to keep me safe. You have our
mm-hmm,
best interest in mind. So like what do you want to tell me? I think that that's profound.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So that disconnect is so real. It's like
Mhm.
I just had this vision of like, what is it, boy? Like, like the dog that knows. It's like Lassie. My body's like, Timmy fell in the well. And I'm like, shut the fuck up and get inside. You already peed. Uh
Yeah, I that is such a good way of putting that, like, you're missing it, you know? And, yeah, so it's yeah, so what my therapist is having me do is to pay attention and to because there is that disconnect, to be like, what are your body yeses and what are your body nos? Like, there are
mm,
plenty of times where my brain and my mouth, as a result, say, "Yeah," but my body is saying, "No, no, no," which sounds like what was happening to you the other day when you were doing that
mm-hmm,
exercise. But understand like, recognizing the signals that she, being my body, gives when she says
mm-hmm,
no, and getting curious about what that feels like when she says no. Also, what it feels like when she says yes. Um,
mm-hmm,
and paying attention to those signals. And it even extends to, Emily, this is so weird. It extends to eating even, because I will just like when I was a kid, it was sit down, eat what's on your plate, and then you can go. Well,
mm-hmm,
eating and dinner time especially was super inconvenient for me. I was making things, I was doing stuff. I was in the middle of doing stuff and my mom would always be like, "Dinner." And I'd be like, "Ugh, again," which sounds really ungrateful now cuz she like bought groceries and made me dinner, but like, in my
I know.
12-year-old
Yeah.
mind, whatever.
Mom, shut up. I'm busy.
Yeah. So I'd go to the table, I'd shove all these things into my mouth hole, totally disregarding how my body actually felt about it. And then once
Mm-hmm,
I was done with that, I could say, "May I please be excused?" And then I would deal with my plate and I would leave the table and I'd be done and I could return back to what I wanted to do. Fast forward, 30 or so years, here I am with there's a plate of food in front of me. I will shove it in as fast as I possibly can so I can move
mm,
on to the next thing, even if I enjoy the food. That's just so hardwired into my brain. I don't think
Mm,
about if I'm full or not. I don't
mhm,
consider that at all. Like, I will eat at a restaurant large man-sized portions and be miserable afterwards. And I'll be like, "Why did you do that?" It's like, "Well,
mhm,
okay, because you're doing this thing, you're not listening." So I've been listening. I mean, this it to me, it's revolutionary. Probably to other people, it's not. But just when you start to get signals that your body is saying that's enough, stop.
mhm,
Like brainwave to me.
mhm,
And I've been
mhm,
doing it, and it's sometimes really hard to stop because I'm like, "But there's still food on here. There's still food on here. What
mhm,
am I gonna do with it? What" and it's like, this is okay. Even if you throw the food away, which I don't love doing, like, get a box, take it home.
mhm.
You can eat it
Yep,
tomorrow. Like,
yep.
it's so foreign to me.
Well, that I mean, a lot of us my parents didn't do that, because my mom has had big time eating issues, but most of our generation, parents raised us, "You clean your plate."
Yeah.
And it was like trained. I mean, they were the children of depression
Oh,
people.
absolutely. Yep.
So then they were like, "You clean your plate. That's what you're, like you're ungrateful. There are people starving in China."
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Don't listen to your body. Listen to what I'm telling you. Eat this.
Right.
Um, it makes a lot of sense. Listening to your body. That's like building self trust or some
Ooh,
shit.
ooh, ooh. Ooh, what is that? How
Yeah.
ooh, oh, I can't be trusted.
Let's not get carried away.
Yeah. No, huge self-trust issues because if I don't keep myself contained in this box, I could just fly apart and be anyone and do
That's
anything and murder people. Who knows?
I mean, that is a weird anxiety thing. I think a lot of people go through that. It's like,
Mhm.
it's like when you're driving and there's a semi coming and you're like, what if I accidentally just veered? And I'm not depressed. I just am like, what if I don't know how to not fall off this cliff right now? Like, what the fuck? Uh,
Yep.
I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, building that self trust. Okay, so if we're like becoming aware of this and we're elder millennials, does this mean like after this podcast today, we're geriatric Gen Z? I'm just kidding. Get it? Because we're thinking about our mental
Oh
health.
my gosh. I see what you did there. I don't know if we can change our age orientation.
I can do whatever I want.
Okay. I identify as a geriatric Gen Z.
Don't argue with me.
I will not.
I'm
I will not be
listening to my
doing that.
body. And my body feels like a geriatric Gen Z now.
It's starting to.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, where could this go? Are we
Who
actually going to
knows?
pay attention to this shit and like, oh my god, that's crazy. Let's do it.
I told Seth yesterday, I was like, I could be anyone. I could be anyone. I could screw what if I actually listen to who I am and what I want? I could screw up my family. My kids could never talk to me again. And he was like, okay. What okay, I hear you, but like maybe just come in the house. you know, like come out of your car. Maybe we need to eat something. But like I truly it it sounds ridiculous to me, and it sounds like when Christians say, "Well, if I didn't have God, what's keeping me from murdering people?
That is
Jesus."
so
I'm like,
scary.
"What?
That's really, I mean,
That's the thing keeping you kind to your fellow person?"
terrifying.
It is. Like that sounds ridiculous to me, but that's essentially what I'm saying. Like if I don't
If
have my anxiety, what's going to keep me in line?
mm.
I'm just going to go on a rampage.
See, it does keep you safe.
It
It's like a
does.
fallacy, of course,
Yes.
but
No,
yeah.
you're totally right. You're totally right.
Yep.
So, yeah. So this whole discussion about mental health, how it's become so Like, people are talking about it right and left. Like, when I was coming up in the world, we didn't we didn't do that. Like,
Mhm.
no one like, mental health issues were for crazy people.
Yeah, when I was your age, mental health people got locked up in a straitjacket.
Absolutely, and it was like, "Oh, you have mental health issues? Oh, are you schizophrenic? Do you have multiple personality disorder?" It's
Mm.
like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa."
Bipolar, right?
Exactly, like,
Yep. It's
there are
so
some
stigmatized.
yes, and
Yep.
so and then, of course, I was so scared about those things. I was like, "I'm not one of those people," which is also stigma,
Yep. Yep.
you know? And so, yeah, it's very encouraging that people are actually talking about this, although there is still stigma out there. Seth, my partner, cannot get life insurance on me. They won't touch me with a 10-foot pole because I have taken psychiatric medication.
Are you
Yeah,
serious?
I can't get it.
What?
Hi, dear listener. Editing Carrie here. I want to take a moment to clarify my experience with being denied life insurance due to mental health issues. This happened about 10 years ago, and I recognize that attitudes toward mental health have evolved since then. Many underwriters are now more open to insuring individuals with mental health histories, which can help reduce stigma. However, it's important to note that mental health issues in your medical records can still lead to higher premiums if you are deemed a higher risk. Unfortunately, at that time, we couldn't afford the higher monthly costs. Ultimately, this was my experience, and I encourage all listeners to do their research. Look for insurance companies that take an individualized approach to underwriting, considering your current mental health status and how you manage your condition. Don't let my experience discourage you from exploring your options. I once felt hopeless after my rejection, thinking no company would consider me. But after I did a little bit of research to make sure that I was giving you the best answers, I found that that was simply not the case. So please do your research and find a plan that fits your needs. Okay, back to the show.
See, that's the shit. That's why my mom is so afraid of it. She's like, because if you get labeled as a crazy person, then you're not going to be I'm not anxious. I'm not like I'm not accepting any of that. It makes sense that that generation is like, nope. Like
Mm-hmm.
because if you get labeled as something,
Mm-hmm.
then it's with you forever and you lose life insurance. It's fucking crazy. That seems illegal.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, if you are on certain psychiatric medications and you are, or even ADHD medications, like I'm pretty sure this applies to Adderall. You can't be a pilot, you can't fly. Like, there's all this
Jesus.
stuff and I get it. Like, there are. Do I think that like people with schizophrenia should be able to own a gun? I mean, there's a line. There's a line at which it becomes like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if it's in their best interest or the best interest of society because of
Mm-hmm.
what they're dealing with. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many people have just your garden variety anxiety.
Garden variety anxiety. That sounds like a really great song.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And should they be like not able to do their jobs because they're anxious or like that? But that makes it so much worse because then they're going to be anxious about being anxious and acting like they're anxious. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, you stuff that inside because you don't want your life to get screwed up on paper. So you just don't tell anyone, which is even worse for your mental health.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and
Ugh.
I'm with you. I had a father that went through Vietnam,
Mm,
and there was no mental health debriefing from that, and there freaking should have been. He
mm-hmm.
never got therapy for it. And I wonder, because he has a lot of physical problems now, I wonder how many of those physical problems are from undealt with anxiety,
Trauma. Mm-hmm.
trauma. I don't know. I
Yeah.
honestly don't know. He's never had that conversation with anyone. Probably should have. No,
Mm-hmm.
strike that. Definitely should have.
Definitely.
And then whenever whenever I told my mom about my diagnosis, because I ended up, I think I was a sophomore in college. I ended up getting diagnosed with panic disorder and OCD thoughts. And I told her about it, and she was like, let's not label it. We don't have to do that. And I was like, well, maybe we do. I mean, that's not all I am. I'm not just like, oh, like there's a lot more to me than the diagnosis, um but actually the diagnosis is really helpful because
Mhm.
it tells me this is not Satan, by the way. This is a thing that a lot of people have, and a lot of people have sought help, and a lot of people have gotten better from it.
Mhm.
Hello, that gives me so much hope.
Mhm.
So please don't take
Y-
my diagnosis away from me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's a person that runs by and slaps you in the face every once in a while. It feels like you don't know where they came from and you don't know where they're going. And then someone's like, "Oh, they come from here and then they go over there." Okay, great. So I can at least sort of predict that some of this is going to happen at this point so I could
Mhm.
protect myself slightly because I know that there's a pattern here that exists and
Yes.
it's happening to other people too. This guy's doing this shit, and if we know where he's going, we can figure it out. Don't take my zigzag pattern, mom. I need to
Mhm.
be able to at least know what's going on, sort of,
Right.
instead of just feeling like, is anyone else getting slapped in the face? When? Why? What's happening? Anyway,
Right.
that's it.
No, absolutely. Like don't take away my tools kind of, or
Mhm,
that um yeah, ways that I can, like you said, like understanding the pattern. Like I need that in
mhm,
order to feel like I'm not insane and that there
mhm,
is a rhyme or reason to this thing. And like we learn about in life coaching, like we work, none of us are broken. We all work perfectly well according to our programming that we've been
mhm,
given.
mhm,
The most painful thing to believe about yourself is that I am broken
mm,
and I cannot be fixed.
mhm,
And that it's because I've done something to allow Satan into my life or
mhm,
whatever.
and I don't know
So,
what it is, but
right,
I did.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And I have no idea. So I'm like, I remember one time I was in my mom's room and I was so anxious and I was just out loud renouncing every entry point, everything that could have possibly been the point at which Satan entered my life and gave me this anxiety. I was
Mhm.
like renouncing like children's books and like all this stuff.
I
Like
rebuke you, good night, moon.
yes,
Like,
yes,
what the
all that
fuck?
stuff. I was so desperate that I was throwing whatever I had at it.
Mm.
I mean, that makes a person crazy.
And your mom's just like, all right, I mean,
My
this is
mom was like
whatever.
all here for it cuz she believes in all um the spiritual warfare stuff. Like we live in a world that is completely unaware of all of the spiritual warfare that's happening invisibly all around us.
Mhm,
And they
mhm.
are just playing with our lives. But once we become aware that that's what's happening and we're able to kind of put on the armor of God, then we can overcome these things that are happening invisibly around us. Like she absolutely believes that. So yeah, she was
Yeah.
completely on board.
Well, we're in constant battle, and
Yeah.
that is great for your nervous system.
Oh my gosh. Right? Like, how can you be like, rest and digest when there's a freaking war going on that you can't
Con-
see all the time?
Yep.
No, no,
Ugh.
that is crazy making. Okay, let's talk about medication because I know for me, growing up, medication was really not an option at all.
Mhm,
My parents would never even consider putting me on medication.
mhm,
Um, and I really, really had clinical levels of OCD and anxiety to where I really could have used it. There's still just such a stigma when it comes to mental health issues that, I mean, the way I like to think of it is if you had diabetes, would you not take your insulin? No, you would not.
Mm-hmm.
You would take it. If you broke your arm, you wouldn't just be like, "It's fine. I'll just not," you know? Like, if you're in
Mm-hmm.
significant amount of pain to where it's affecting your everyday life and your ability to cope and function, I mean, to me, that's at least when I have been like that, when I have lost quality of life, that's a really good indication to me in my own medication journey that it's time to start looking at those things. And you don't have to wait till it's at that point either. Like I have done that a lot, but then I've taken Prozac since 2017 when I haven't been in an anxiety episode, and it's been great. So
Mm-hmm.
there's just and there's so many that work for people. I have been on Prozac for a long time. I'm currently switching to Wellbutrin, which is slightly different because I'm dealing with more depression than anxiety these days. So there's just know that so many people take them and they are okay, and you will be okay too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am still. This is the irony is pretty hilarious. I'm too anxious to take anxiety medication. Uh, it freaks me out. I have no judgment of other people taking it. I need it, I'm sure. Um, but I'm too scared to take it. So I don't. And it's funny, Carrie and I have talked about this quite a bit. I did make an appointment once and then I got scared, so I canceled it. Um, and she said the diabetes thing. And
Mm.
I was like, well, yeah, I would. I would be like, well, it's your fat ass that got you into this, so maybe you should get yourself out of diabetes. How about that? I do not feel that way about anyone with diabetes or mental health issues, but I am a dick to myself, and I'm very good at that. And she was like, "Well, what if it's type 1? Don't be like that." And I'm like, "Type 1? Well, maybe I should have grown better. I don't know." This is hard for a
Mhm.
lot of us, and being raised by people who are very well, one of my parents very against mental health medication. I suspect it'll be something I will do at some point because it would probably make my life better. But recently I've just been really into being fucked up and not having any tools. So I'm in therapy.
That's
I'm
not
just kidding.
entirely true
I,
because you are
I'm
in
in therapy.
therapy.
And I'm considering it. And I have taken beta blockers.
Mhm.
They call the stage fright medication. So, because my body does go into these really fun times where out of nowhere, it seems for no reason, which I'm now learning there is a reason, uh, I'll just like suddenly have 100 and something heart rate out of nowhere, sometimes in the middle of the
Mm.
night. Um, so, I've taken beta blockers. That's been helpful. Um, but yeah, like, don't be like me. Do as I say, not as I do. If you need help, you should get it. You deserve it. There's nothing wrong with it unless it's me. Okay?
'Cause you're so special.
I'm pretty sure everybody knows that.
Here's the deal with that, Emily. Everyone has their own timing and their own process and are on their own journey. So I think you will know when it's the right time, if it's the right time for you. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So there's
Thank you.
no pressure from me um on that front. Maybe just a
Thank you.
teensy little bit, like 5%
Just a,
pressure though.
just a little like one finger on the shoulder.
Well, and it's only because I see the struggle, and I don't want struggle for you. And that's not to say that you will once you take medication, it's not like, "Oh my gosh, everything's so rosy now." It's not like that. I use the analogy of a cup where when you're having mental health issues, it's like you're so full to the top that if you put one more thing in, you are overflowing and having an issue. right?
Mhm.
Medication doesn't drain your whole cup. What it does is it takes it down enough to where if normal everyday things get put into your cup, you don't overflow because it's just taken a little bit. It gives you space in which to process.
Mm.
So I certainly don't want to sell it um, as, it's just going to take everything away because that's not true.
Honestly, dear listener, now a sponsor of Wellbutrin. Uh,
Big Pharma is
no.
not paying me to say all of this. It's really not.
I, in our talks, don't feel that. And I don't feel that I'm going to put words in your mouth, dear listeners. I don't think our listeners feel like we're selling that either, though there's money in it. We're not. But if it's something that you need, unless you're me, then you need to take care of yourself.
Unless you're me. Oh, Lord in heaven.
It's almost a new year.
Yes, this is a fact.
New year, new meds. That's what I always say.
That's what I'm doing.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
The humor deflection is real with this one.
It's okay. Everyone has their own journey and their own timing, Emily, just like I said. And yeah, I'm trusting the universe and your body to point you in the right direction.
Thanks.
So, listener, if you got anything out of this, just get out that it's okay. You're not weird. There are resources, there's help. Be kind to yourself. And if you need to, talk to your doctor.
Absolutely.
So, with that, thank you for going on this 2-part series into the mental health rabbit hole. It's been a pleasure.
See you next year.
See you next year, dear listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo!